application to get a loan like a couple of years later. And so they were investigating that discrepancy to, see whether we qualified at all.
Now that financial aid form, you said that they had some questions about how old were you when you filled that out?
I was like 19 or 20.
And where did you get the information to fill it out?
So I wasn't working. I got my dad to give me the info. Like I was in the kitchen on the computer applying for the next semester. And I said, "Hey Dad, can you help me out? Like this form needs to know about, like how much money you have, how much money you make." And like I don't know if anyone here has like dealt with Muslim households a lot, but my dad was the head of the household. Like you don't question him. He tells you something and you go with it. Like it's not up for debate. So he came over, he told me what the numbers were to put in, and that's what me and all three of my sisters did.
When that FBI agent called, what did he ask you to do?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yeah, so he eventually asked me to go to a meeting. So it wasn't clear like what they were going to talk about, because the way he started the conversation was all about my dad. He wanted to know about money that my dad was sending to Afghanistan. And like I know my dad still has all his family over there in Afghanistan and he helps them out. But like I didn't know the details about that. But that's what he was asking about. And he almost made it seem like my loans, my student loans, and like all this 94,000 that I just borrowed was like somehow connected to, or he was wondering if there was a connection between like all this borrowed money and my dad sending money back home to Afghanistan. So he didn't like have like clear questions for me, but he said he wanted me to come down to a meeting downtown. So the FBI building's like 3 blocks that way. And he wanted me to bring all of my financial records, like every credit card, every bank statement, like any leases that I had, any loans that I'd taken out. Like he wanted all of it.
Now, it's a little hard because it's 2026 now, and this was in approximately when, 20?
So this was like 2016, like that winter, like early 2017, March is when I got the call from the FBI agent. And it's hard to remember. Like for me, it's kind of hard to actually like even remember COVID, like even though that was only 6 years ago now. But like 2016, like when I looked at like some of the texts from back then, not to make this too political, but like Trump had just gotten elected into office. Like there was like the Muslim ban, like there were all these headlines about that. Like I still talk to my mom, and she was always talking about the story about how some of her friends in California had just had their house raided, like all their clothes thrown out of their dressers, and everything like was a mess, and they never got a reason why that happened. So it was like a different time, and like being Muslim, even though I'm not Muslim, my family's Muslim. And like I did go to Saudi Arabia when I was 18. Like I did the pilgrimage to the holy city. And like, I mean, look at me, I'm brown. Like like the Pandora's box in my head just opened. Like I just started worrying about anything and everything, because I'm getting called by the FBI about student loans and like my dad sending money to Afghanistan. Like it didn't make sense on the face of it. So I was like, clearly they're looking for something else, and I don't know what it is.
Did you share that the FBI had called you with the defendant?
Yeah, I mean, we were still having dinner every night. And I told her like, that they were asking about like why I borrowed all this money, and like I put all the money in her name, like it was in her account. And so yeah, I told her like as it happened, like when I got that phone call, she knew about it. We freaked out about it together.
So in freaking out, what were you actually concerned about? I mean, what were the things that were going on in your head that you discussed?
Well, what wasn't going on through my head? So I guess I'll start with like the craziest, like the thing that was most serious. Like I was worried that, maybe somehow I was gonna get deported. I wasn't born here. Like I'm a citizen. Um, and like, I love the country now, but I wasn't born here. Um, I was worried maybe I was gonna get sent back to Afghanistan where like I wouldn't do well there. Like I don't pray. And over there, they have the call to prayer 5 times a day. It's public, like everyone goes to the mosque. Even if I, fake that and pass along like as a Muslim, like the way I talk, like the way I look, right away they'd flag me as like someone that came over from another country, and like they'd either think I'm a spy or they think like I'm a great hostage target because they can get money out of me or my family. So that was probably the thing I was most worried about, was getting sent back to Afghanistan somehow, or like getting sent to.
What were your other fears? I mean, less than, that was obviously, you're saying very significant, but what were some of your other concerns as well, short of that?
I was also worried like about what was going to happen with the trading account. So the 94,000 that I borrowed, like we used that to borrow more money, and like in March, we were probably borrowing like $800,000. Like eventually, it ended up being like $2 million that we were borrowing with that 94,000 of borrowed money. So I was worried that somehow the FBI would put an end to the trading, like and cut it out in the middle while I still have all these huge loans, and then I'd be on the hook for like almost $1 million somehow. I thought I might get fired. Um, and like the way my dad handled this whole situation with me and my sisters, like I was also worried about like what effect that was going to have on my family. Like I thought it might split us up.
Speaking of which, I mean, the FBI agent, you said, mentioned that he had, I guess, talked to your family.
Yeah, so that was
Objection hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled.
yeah. So that was like one of the first things he said on that phone call, was he said that he'd had a conversation with my dad before, and came as a surprise to me because like my dad didn't tell me that the FBI came asking about student loans. Um, but I called my dad after I talked to the FBI agent, and like my dad confirmed. It's like, oh yeah, I had a conversation like a week ago with this guy.
Um, at the time, I mean, you had moved into the mothership, you're a vegan, you're no longer Muslim, he knew all that. Were you in good speaking terms with your dad?
No, not at all. So I think like, before the student loan stuff happened, this sticks out in my head. So like, I think it explains our relationship pretty well. Before he got out of Afghanistan, like he was in prison. He was tortured by the Russians. And like one of the last things he said to me before I moved out was, Zubair, what you're doing to me is worse than what the Russians did to me. And like that's how we ended things. Like when I moved out, so we weren't on great terms at all.
Well, he said he had been, he got a call from the FBI. What did he give you any explanation about, what was going on? If he's sending money to Afghanistan?
No. I mean, he like in the phone call, like after the FBI talked to me, my dad just kind of denied everything when I called him. He said, I didn't sign any forms. That's you and your sisters. You guys made those numbers up. He kind of used it like the rest of the phone call, like as an excuse to like kind of list all his grievances with me. He like threw in my face. I'm living with an unmarried woman. I'm smoking pot. I live with dogs that are they're like ritually unclean, according to Islam. And he said like, Zubair, you and your sisters, you guys are the ones that went to college. You guys are the ones that benefited. You guys can handle this.
After that call, what, you ended up making up a document, drafting a document to bring to the FBI.
Yeah, me and Iwan drafted a document. So when we were freaking out, like we smoked, like to take the edge off. But I guess it like also like made us come up with dumb ideas. So yeah, we came up with a document together that we were going to use to explain to the FBI why I'd borrowed all this money and given it to her.
I'd like to show the witness Exhibit 1. Do you see the document in front of you?
It's coming up.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can publish it to him, I guess.
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, you see it now. First of all, do you recognize this document?
Yes, I recognize this document.
What's at the top of it?
At the very top is my name, is her name, says residence agreement, and then it has like a date of January 17th, 2017, and then the address of the mothership.
And so how are you familiar with it yourself?
I mean, I typed up the document while Ioana was sitting next to me. Like me and her came up with this together.
Okay, and at the bottom of the document, there's some signatures.
Yeah. So that's the first one is my name, but that's where she signed. And the second one is her name, but that's where my signature is. But like I said, we were smoking. We were pretty high when we did this.
Your Honor, I request that this be moved into evidence and
You're talking about
published.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 1.
Correct, Plaintiff's Exhibit 1, my apologies.
No objection, Your Honor.
Thank you. Plaintiff's 1 is admitted.
There it is. And so at the top, it's called the residence agreement, and I notice, and I'm sorry, it's a little small, so you might have to kind of put on your glasses. Even for me, it's a little small. I can see it right here. But it says it's called the residence agreement. Is that what you ended up calling it?
Yeah, that's the name we gave this thing.
And the date is January 17th, 2017. Was that the date that you actually created this document?
No, we did this in March when the FBI called. We put the date of January on there because we thought it made sense to like have this dated right before she got all the money.
And it says that the address there says 15824 North 22nd Way in Phoenix. That what is that the mothership you talked about?
Yeah, that's where we live together.
And it says there, it says in return for a payment of $94,000, Zubair Hussaini gains the right to reside at the above mentioned address for a period of 25 years with no rental payments due. Why did you draft this sentence?
Because I was scared. Like I had all those worries in my head because the FBI is calling me, and I needed like that they asked for all my financial records, and they were going to ask about the loans and why I gave Ioana money. And together, we came up with this document. We thought it would explain like why I'd just given her all that money.
Now I noticed that the signature, your signature doesn't appear, the signature beneath your name doesn't appear to be your signature, or is it?
No, that's her signature. You can see the I there at the beginning.
Okay, and whose signature then is below her name?
My signature, it's Z-I, like it's our two initials. Like I put her in my signature.
So I want you to take me now, kind of in your mind. So when is this? When did you actually meet in person with the FBI? You said you were given a call. They said to come. Approximately, if you can remember, when did you meet with the FBI?
Yeah, it was probably like a week after her birthday, like at the end of March. So I got called into the big building downtown that's close to here. I walked in. You go through the metal detectors. You got to take off all your stuff, and then a person escorts you up to the floor where they're going to talk to you. And there are no windows, tiny hallways, and I had no idea what to expect. I definitely didn't expect there to be 6 people when I got in the room. But they opened the door and there's like this big table, it's circular, and they all went around and introduced themselves, and they're from like different government agencies. And the two guys there say, yeah, we're both from the FBI. We're forensic accountants. Like I was really intimidated, and I don't think I can like really get that across to anyone who like hasn't been questioned by the FBI. But like I was sweating. Like I'm sure I had huge pit stains. I'm like 28. I have no idea what to expect.
Do you have a memory of what they were asking you about?
Yeah, I remember a lot of it actually. So they were really interested in my dad's finances, but they had information about like everything. So I'm a bit of an airhead. I lose my license and my ID all the time. And in college, like I probably lost my ID like once a semester. They pulled out like photocopies of like all like 9 of my IDs, and like one of them I had like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beanie on, and another one I'm doing like the stupid double thumbs up, and like I didn't remember most of these IDs, but they had them there, and they asked me about them, and they asked me like why I had so many IDs. Um, they asked about like details that I'd forgotten. So like my freshman year at college, my dad had a great idea to like buy a pallet of rice, like taller than me. I remember because I had to help unload it like into the house. So they asked, it's like, we have this receipt of your dad buying a pallet of rice. Did he ever buy a pallet of rice? And so they just knew my family's whole history, and they asked all about it.
Now, in terms of the $94,000, I mean, how did that connect to this residence agreement? What'd you do with it in terms of the FBI?
So eventually they started like going through like all my records. Like I brought like all my statements and this document. And I gave them the document, and I was nervous. Like I don't know if I smoked that morning, but like I definitely smoked the night before, and I was really nervous, and like I had no idea if it would pass muster. So I like handed it to them, and my heart's beating, and they looked at it, and then they looked at me, and like they both just kind of laughed to each other.
We need to break in the next 5 minutes,
Why
so
don't we take,
just let me know.
you want to take the break now, Your Honor? Or do you want?
Whenever you think is a good spot, if you think this is good.
This is fine.
Okay. All right, folks, we're going to recess for 15 minutes. Please remember the admonition. We'll see you after that. Go ahead and have a seat. I'm going to talk with the lawyers for a minute.
Your Honor, do you want us to approach the bench? Or?
No, we can talk here. Jury's no longer in the courtroom. Explain to me your hearsay objection, because maybe I'm not getting it.
He's asking for the witness to discuss statements made by the FBI.
Okay, so statements are not hearsay. Statements offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted are hearsay. And I understood all the statements. The only relevance to all this is to the understanding of the agreements between these folks. So I understood all these statements to be relevant background to the circumstances that give rise to their understandings of the agreements they made. Am I understanding that correctly, Mr. Hannell?
That's precisely what it is.
Am I missing this, Mr. Richardson?
Well, he's testifying as to the statements that the FBI is making.
Well, in one instance, you objected to a question. A question is never hearsay. A question is a question.
Well, because it was going to call for hearsay for statement.
No, you objected to him. The question was, what did he ask you? Well, that can't be hearsay because a question doesn't assert a fact. So help me out. Let's do this. we're both talking the abstract because there were lots of water under the bridge. Just bear in mind, as you're making the objections, whether you think that that statement is asserting a matter that's relevant in this action or whether it's being offered for some other purpose, such as to prove the mental state of the person hearing the statement, which is, I think, what it is.
Okay, well, I made the objection because I do think that they're offering it for the truth of the matter.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And feel free, if you need to make the record, keep making those objections. I just wanted you to understand my reasoning. I think that was all I wanted to talk to you about. See you in 15. Did you have something?
No, Your Honor, other than we are going to introduce that exhibit at some point in the next, hour, this text message, and I gave you the memo on it, so I just wanted to.
Do you want to talk about it? I'm
Yes, Your
comfortable
Honor.
with what it is. Tell me what the issue is. I read your memo, so I understand your standpoint. What's your standpoint, Mr. Richardson?
That it's being introduced to assert a theory that wasn't part of the original complaint, namely that the agreement itself was a sham, or the contract itself was a sham or some sort of fraud. And it wasn't part of the pleading. So under Rule 9B, they're not allowed to assert any evidence relating to fraud that wasn't specifically pled.
Okay. I'll overrule that objection. I thought it was a 408 issue. Are you making that argument?
I would just reiterate, Your Honor, that courts are not free to override the clear language of Rule 9B. This is not something that's specifically pled. So, no, we're not making Rule 408 objection.
So tell me what you think should have been specifically pled.
I just did. That the agreement itself was fake, and they did not make such an assertion. And that's what they're hoping to enter these text messages as an admission that defendant thinks that this agreement is fake. And certainly the context of those text messages following the settlement or the mediation is protected by confidentiality rules. So I would say that the context of it probably is protected by 408. And because of that confidentiality rules, there's not going to be enough context for the jury to not be prejudiced by the entry of this evidence.
Let me look at the statement.
Like me to show it, Your Honor? I can.
No, that's all right.
Just
So the text message, she says, Ms. Sammartinian says, I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. Let me look back at it. Which exhibit number is this?
Your Honor, I believe it is, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front because my computer's there, but I believe it's like 2223. Let me find it in just a second.
Well, let's do this. Let me go back and look at the pleadings, and we'll see whether this is the kind of thing that should have been pled under Rule 9B. I didn't think this is a Rule 9 issue because there's not a fraud claim being brought by the plaintiff.
There's not.
correct.
They're bringing a common law fraud claim.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But if I understand your argument, it's under Rule 9 that fraud has to be pled with particularity. Is that
That's
that
correct.
what your argument is?
That's correct, Your Honor. So introducing evidence with relation to that is improper.
Okay. All right, let me look at the pleadings and,
I do have a brief of that issue, Your Honor.
sure, thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll be back in 15. We are in recess.